So I'm thinking about why people talk about living in the end times. And I consider like the whole of humanity going through a paradigm shift as a part of our own evolution and also our survival. Is it the same thing? Maybe, yeah. I also heard somebody talk about trauma as an evolutionary thing. And now I'm pondering, even within my own story, I talk about spiritual awakenings and I'm confused, or I wonder about, is my spiritual awakening some sort of divine intervention, or is it a result of my own trauma from childhood? And doing a lot of emotional alchemy, I always kind of consider the fact that, you know, we really are at this juncture, or this sort of like cross at the road of self-awareness, and how it's like looping round, going round and round in circles, trying to find the answer, but we just don't look within. And a lot to me of emotional alchemy or shadow work or inner work is just harmonizing with your heart and actually becoming a sentient human being again, meaning you feel. I mean, a big part of, I think, the heightened awareness of narcissistic abuse is that the essence of narcissistic abuse is to lie. Lying mentally, emotionally, lying about what we're thinking and feeling. And so for an empath, in any kind of intimate relationship, that just becomes super toxic, because an empath wants to be clear mentally, emotionally, endeavors to be honest mentally, emotionally. And that's, I think, why there's a rise in mental emotional responsibility, because more people are wanting to take responsibility for their life, for their creation. And yet I can certainly testify that, taking more responsibility is equally challenging and relentless and hard work, as it were, as working the hustle or working the 9 to 5. It just looks different. You know, there's a lot more reflection. There's a lot more emotional processing. And often I see this backlog of our systems that are kind of backing up, you know, the economic system, our waste systems, are, you know, they're all like the ocean stuff. I always see that as our own like denied connection. So long as we point fingers at politicians, so long as we're, well, really blaming any aspect outside of self, and recognize there's a discernment about, it's not about denial. It's not about turning the cheek, as it were. It's not about having no compassion or empathy for the pain and suffering of the world. It's about alchemizing that pain and suffering. It's about being able to own our part in it. And when we own our part in it, that's when it's hella easy to make changes, economically speaking. So you just start buying all secondhand clothing. You stop engaging with certain media sources that are divisive and or just straight up lies. You stop associating with people that you don't align with, right? Energetically speaking. Why? Because you want to be mentally, emotionally responsible. And people that are not, it becomes increasingly challenging. And it's not for a lack of love. It's not for a lack of like a desire for the joy of all. It's more to do with the fact that you get to a point where it's only your kingdom. Like you are the only one perceiving through your mind. And that's a lot to do with spiritual teachings, as far as like aligning with the mind of God. And in various texts, the mind of God is just an infinite perspective, and it allows everything. Therefore, it loves everything. And I would say that even the atrocities that we bear witness to, and of course, our own personal suffering and pain that we move through or grow through, once you've come to the other side, you can see that it is an act of God, that it is through our personal life experience that we learn the lessons. Which is why I find it interesting that we can do all these courses and want to read all these books, and which is all wonderful. Every part of our existence has a value. And yet I'm aware that certainly in the world of all of this doing and making it happen, manifesting, telling each other what to do, often is the case that there's a like a gap as far as like there's a dissociation that we're not truly manifesting, we're actually manipulating and controlling, which to me has a lot to do with the function of our economy and the ways in which we're kind of taught to get ahead or taught to move forward. Plus, there's an overemphasis on the material world. There's an overemphasis on having stuff. And we've somehow equated having stuff or having followers or having is an epitome of success rather than joy and well-being. Although that can be obviously intertwined part of it. However, even our perception of joy can be very limited or skewed, because to me, we can't have joy without sorrow. You know, we can't have peace without conflict. We can't experience love without experience hatred and separation. So there's all of these dualistic aspects to the nature of our own existence that we are here to embody, express, but also to unify. And that comes through self-awareness. That comes through the experience of life and deepening our connection to our personal heart space. Because, again, it's like that brain-heart coherence that creates the field that we're able to perceive through. So when, you know, and that's why when we're less connected to the heart, when we're less sentient, when we're less feeling, often we can get into patterns that are more destructive or more painful, to the point that the pain's getting worse rather than better. It's like off what we're learning about even things like pharmaceutical drugs. I'm personally somebody who's all up for it. Like, I'm into modern medicine as much as I'm into alternative stuff. Personally, I'm into whatever works. I'm into whatever helps people feel better. And sometimes pharmaceutical drugs can really help for that. However, what we're aware of also is this culture of just sort of like appeasing the issue. Like so many other people talking to this sort of healing paradigm, it's like we're not addressing the root. Why? Probably because it's pretty complex in as far as how do we make these entire systematic changes that actually prioritize our personal well-being rather than our consumerist function, right? So I don't know. I don't have the answer other than this quantum awakening through, or a paradigm shift through quantum awakening that somehow rises compassionate leadership, teaches lessons where they need to be taught, and, you know, that the world continues to shine beautifully. It's such a beautiful world. That was another thing too, where somebody recently said something like, well, you know, the land is here and the land is the healing. And I was like, well, yeah, nature, that's the thing. This beautiful planet is a natural sort of regenerative, super duper abundant, and destruction is part of creation, and it's super beauts and it naturally heals. We don't need to get involved. And I do think there's a sense of arrogance and dominance over nature sometimes, which is an interesting thing, because actually the unification of it is how we choose to express. I need to noodle on that a little bit more. As far as like, we don't need to control it. It's about what we do with it and how we share that with other humans, right? Unless we want to be a hermit, or unless, who knows? I guess everybody's just different. Anyway, kind of got a little distracted. You know, do you know what I tried today? Let's do a little 1 minute get ready with me beauty rant, because I'm quite distracted. I did that lip liner thing where you lip outside. And for the first time, I was like, oh, it kind of almost looks real. But I think that's also like camera screen. I think if I was in real life, you know, in real life, you see the wrinkles more. You see you see the maquillage on the face, and like, I think you would see the outline. Anyway, it was fun to talk to all y'all and have a little rant about our existence and how I pray every day that it can make sense to us, and that we can look after one another and ourselves a little bit better and heal these broken hearts. I love you guys. Peace out.